to have you join us today. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Lee Ji-yoon in Seoul. Coming up on today's edition of Business Daily. The Bank of Korea keeps its key interest rate unchanged for February as recovery in exports offset concerns over dampened consumption. With experts saying that robots are likely to take over much of our jobs in the near future, lawmakers, experts, and related industries are debating the idea of taxing robots. We'll sit down with an expert to talk about this. Another month, another rate freeze. The Bank of Korea froze rates for the 8th straight month. Now, the decision comes amid mixed economic indicators and signs that the U.S. Federal Reserve is on track to push up rates further. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
A steady, record-low benchmark rate for another month. Korea's central bank kept its base rate unchanged for an 8th straight month since June last year at 1.25%. BOK Governor Lee Ju-yeol said the rate freeze follows a moderate pickup in the economy, with the country's exports and facilities investment likely to post better performance on the back of steady global recovery. The decision is also a clear reflection of worries over growing household debt levels that reached over $1.17 trillion as of the end of last year, shooting up nearly 12% on year just in the last quarter.
Although the overall volume of household debt has expanded, the types of debts and the financial assets of households with debt payments are healthier than they had been. But at the same time, we are closely watching the pace of debt growth while monitoring the expansion seen from second-tier lenders.
The governor added that the bank's board members will carry out measures to ensure monetary policy decisions support economic growth and help realize the consumer price inflation target. Korea's consumer prices had logged the fastest pace of growth in January at 2%, while consumer sentiment remained at a near 8-year low. But Lee said no changes have been made to the bank's previous stance of accommodation, given that inflationary pressures on the demand side are still weak.
The monetary policy in the coming months will largely be determined by the course of the country's private consumption. It's safe to assume that the current policy rate is suitable enough to both prop up spending while buying time to help the government cope with the high household debt.
He added this is why the government will continue to roll out a number of measures to get more Koreans to open up their wallets. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
The Korean government has unveiled new measures aimed at boosting private consumption. The focus of the measures, announced at a ministerial-level meeting presided over by Acting President Hwang Kyo-won, is to foster an environment where people want to spend while expanding financial support to lower-income households. Our Kim Min-ji has the details.
Bogged down by a slew of uncertainties at home and abroad, Korea's domestic consumption has been in the doldrums. It edged up a meager 0.2% in the fourth quarter of last year, slowing from 0.5% in the third quarter and 1% in the second. With that in mind, the government unveiled measures aimed at reversing the consumption slowdown.
소비 개선 대책은 지출 여력 저하로 인한 소비 부진에 대응하여 가계 소득 확충, 생계비 부담 완화와 함께 지출 여력이 있는 경제 주체들이 실제 소비에 나설 수 있도록 소비 계기를 만드는 것에도 역점을 두고 추진해 주시기 바랍니다.
The government will designate a family day every month by encouraging flexible working hours. It'll also extend support to industries that have been hit by the anti-graft law that went into effect last year, that put a price ceiling on gifts and meals that people in certain sectors can accept. To promote local tourism, it will push new vacation packages, offering 30% discounts on train tickets on weekdays, as well as offering incentives to hotels that cut their daily rates. To bring in foreign tourists, no commission fees will be applied on visas for tour groups from China and Southeastern Asian countries, while foreigners who make multiple trips can benefit from simpler visa screening processes. The government is also putting emphasis on boosting the capacity to spend through increased welfare support for low-income households, as well as employment support for those that have been hit by the government-led corporate restructuring program. To tackle rising housing expenses, some 34,000 units of public rental houses will also be provided in 2017, up from an initial plan of 27,000, while the ceiling on housing loans will also be raised. While experts say the plans are timely, these measures alone will have a limited impact.
The measures can only offer supplementary effects. The most important thing is economic revitalization. Looking at the bigger picture, regulations need to be stripped back to allow firms to invest, which will lead to job creation and in turn will prop up spending. In the long run, this would be better as it would stimulate spending and lay the groundwork for future growth engines.
Experts say the new administration needs to make job creation its top priority by taking a two-track approach, namely measures to spur investment as well as spending, so that they complement each other and bring about desired effects. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
And Koreans are said to have the longest life expectancy in the world, according to research by the World Health Organization and Imperial College London. The average lifespan of a Korean woman is projected to top 90 years at birth in 2030, overtaking Japan's top spot in the age rankings from its current fourth place. French and Japanese women are expected to live to 88 years on average. Korean men are also likely to live longer than their OECD peers, averaging 84.07 years of age, followed by Australians, the Swiss, and Canadians. The study says Koreans' longevity has been boosted by strong economic development, as well as universal healthcare, education, child nutrition, and a rapid scale-up of new medical technologies. The age of the smart factory is upon us. Industrial robots are working side by side with humans, improving their links with suppliers, exchanging data, and rectifying problems, all with minimal human intervention. And with this, Korea's manufacturers are looking to take a step forward in efficiency and productivity. Our Lee Joo-young has more.
Small and mid-sized firm Alinsis, which exports bidet parts, says sales last year rose nearly 30% to roughly $29 million. Thanks to its smart factory system, the company says it saved $52,000 and saw productivity shoot up immensely.
We were able to seal a lot of contracts with Japanese companies because of the smart factory system.
Being smarter, faster, and all-around safer, with this system, Korea Smart Factory Foundation says firms are able to benefit from an average 30% increase in productivity, reduce the ratio of defective products by 33%, and trim the time in supplying its products.
If we improve SME competitiveness with smart factories, we can export more to China.
Given the benefits, an increasing number of firms are adopting the smart factory system by the year, growing to about 1,560 last year. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy also announced that it will work with the private sector to invest a total of $96 million this year to build at least 5,000 smart factories for 2,200 small and mid-sized enterprises. Despite concerns of a fall in jobs, the government says rising productivity can lead to better sales overall, and that, in turn, can lead to more job creation. A survey conducted by the Korea Federation of SMEs also revealed that nearly 70% of companies surveyed said that the introduction of smart factories is necessary. Lee Joo-young, Business Daily.
Now, most people wouldn't have imagined, except in a science fiction movie, that robots would be able to take over their jobs. But with the rise of artificial intelligence, robots have been taking up a bigger part of our daily lives in recent years. With this, the concept of taxing robots has been thrown into the spotlight. Let's find out what this is all about.
A recent report by Korea Employment Information Service predicts that over 70% of jobs here in Korea will be able to be replaced by software, robots, and smart machines by the year 2025. With concerns growing that automation will create job losses for human workers worldwide, the impact that robots and AI systems may have at the workplace and in society has increasingly become a hot topic. In a recent interview with Quartz, Bill Gates, Microsoft's co-founder and the world's richest man, said that governments should tax companies' use of automation technologies to mitigate the impact of job losses. This way, Gates added, robot taxes can be used to retrain workers put out of jobs by robots and towards education, elderly care, and other societal needs. But last week, the European Union rejected a proposal to impose a robot tax and instead decided on an EU-wide legislation to regulate the rise of robots, which includes an ethical framework for their development, deployment, and the establishment of liability for the actions of robots. So what's ahead for this so-called robot tax? Will it help society amid the rise of robots, or will it just end up stunting innovation?
And to tell us more about this, Professor Kim Se-wan from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Good afternoon.
So this robot tax is something that even European lawmakers debated on, although they did decide to reject the proposal this week. So tell us more about this ongoing robot tax debate.
Well, there was a long discussion about the robot tax between economists and IT companies in the past without a concrete conclusion. And the last year's European Parliament's reports on robot tax was the first discussion on robot tax in public sector, even though that is not enacted yet. After that, these days, UK's governments and France's governments are both considering robot tax. And more recently, Mr. Gates, the founder of the Microsoft, gave comments on introducing robot tax in the United States. And that drove a big reaction from the general public.
So at this point, we're wondering, what impact would the rise of robots have on the global economy?
Well, the 21st century will be an era of new industrial revolution led by robots, IT, and artificial intelligence. And this new wave of industrial revolution gives two impacts on global economy, the productivity and the size of the employments. Of course, by using more robots in production, we produce faster and in a more cost-effective way, which is good for the growth of the global economy. But in terms of the size of the employment, it is pretty clear that new revolution decreases the size of the employment. For example, in the past, robots only substitute routine works routine works based on Vietnam and Chinese works. But these days, as robots are combined with artificial intelligence, they begin to substitute all professional jobs from medical doctors and lawyers.
So that just explains why all this debate is basically stemming from concerns of a jobless future for humans. So what's your outlook on this?
Well, I think the largest difference between today's robot-based revolution and 18th century's England's industrial revolution is their effects on labor size or employment size.
Right.
So, for example, according to recent McKinsey's report on employment, new revolution led by robots will decrease manufacturing jobs over 60% in the next 10 years.
Okay.
And which is also true for finance and insurance jobs. And more recently, BBC Broadcasting from England predicts that more than 90% of the broadcasting company jobs will be disappeared in the next 15 years.
Wow.
And more recently, Foxconn, the assembler of iPhone and iPad, substituted 60,000 workers in China with robots.
No, that's definitely concerning news for myself,
exactly.
too.
Even to
I'm
me.
in broadcasting, right? Yeah, and for you too. But now, like we heard in the report, supporters of this robot tax are actually saying that such a tax could help educate and retrain workers who have possibly lost jobs, or especially in the face of more robots replacing humans, right? But those opposing this idea are saying that taxing robots would actually stunt innovation. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, actually today's low employment and unfair income distributions are more related to unfair tax system and the unfair political system and education system. So if we impose new tax on companies, particularly in robot industry, the new startups will have a more burden in starting their new business, which is no good for the development of new industry. But it is important to note that the without providing something buffer to the workers who lost their jobs due to robots, the social anger and social unrest will delay the development of the industry or even stops the development of industry.
Now, what about Korea? I mean, what should Korea do to prepare for this fourth industrial revolution as well as the rise of robots, considering that Korea is one of the most advanced, technologically advanced countries in the world?
Well, actually, Korea is the country that most heavily employs the robots in production. For example, the Koreans' ratio between the robots and the workers is the highest in the world. And this is the way how Korean manufacturers are competing with low labor cost countries like Vietnam and China. But as time goes by, as more workers are displaced by robots, it is very important to provide something, helping system to these workers. Without that, it is very difficult to progress the new revolution in IT and artificial intelligence and robot industry.
A promising future, but at the same time, a scary future, I guess.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. Until then, goodbye.